In 2018, voters in Portland, Oregon approved a first-of-its-kind climate and justice fund aimed at investing in projects in historically marginalized communities. Since then, the fund has grown, and so has the debate over how that money should be spent. Stephanie Sy reports as part of our series, Tipping Point.
Our community members die 10 years younger than everywhere else because of the lack of clean air.
At a city council hearing last month in Portland, Oregon,
in making sure that we make more progress on decarbonization of our transportation sector.
Climate change and environmental justice were on the agenda.
This is going to cause an issue. This is going to cause a delay in some of these programs. Tell the truth.
The debate on this day, how to spend about $15 million from a roughly $1.6 billion pool of money, known as the Portland Clean Energy Fund, or PCEF.
There is no other fund like this in the nation.
Monica Samayoa is a climate and environment reporter for Oregon Public Broadcasting.
So the Portland Clean Energy Fund is a 1% tax that is imposed on large retailers in the city. The purpose of the fund is to address social, racial, and climate justice, as well as to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
When Portland voters created this fund 8 years ago, Samayoa says it was expected to generate about $60 million annually. But when the pandemic hit and more people turned to large retailers online, the fund had an unexpected windfall.
It's actually generating $200 million a year. And that threw off everyone because they were thinking, what are we going to do with these large amounts of money?
The money, earmarked for both large and small climate-related projects in underserved communities,
Can I have a piece?
has been a crucial lifeline for families like 40-year-old Carrie Rowe and her 2 young children. Rowe, a photographer, bought her first home 2 years ago.
Some leaves? Yeah, we moved in and the house was awesome, cute, small, and then a few days later, a 14-day ice storm hit. And in that moment, I realized, like, oh my gosh, my walls are not insulated because there was ice. It was cold to the touch on every single wall.
After qualifying for a program that helps Native Americans make energy-efficient upgrades to their homes,
They insulated every wall that would adjoin a living space.
Rowe was able to use more than $20,000 in PCEF funds to insulate her walls, weatherize her doors, and air seal her attic.
They insulated all the space between the house and the foundation.
She says her total energy usage has dropped by half since this work was completed, saving her about $80 a month in utilities.
We'd still be freezing in the winter and sweating all summer long, so I'm beyond grateful.
But for the last few years, reporter Monica Samayoa has been tracking efforts to use PCEF dollars outside of climate-related projects.
Now at 5, a controversial ballot measure that would divert climate tax dollars to fund police staffing in Portland.
That includes a proposed ballot measure to divert 25% of the fund's annual revenue to hire 400 additional police officers. Voters here will likely vote on the measure in November.
Supporters say, well, we need more police officers on our streets. There's not enough. A second proposal that has got a lot of attention right now is coming from Portland Mayor Keith Wilson. He has floated around this idea that PCEF would provide at least $75 million to renovate the Moda Center, and that is our sports arena where the Portland Trailblazers play.
The Portland Trailblazers are a part of our DNA. That's so important to keep in Portland.
Mayor Keith Wilson says upgrades to the Moda Center are needed, not only to keep the Trailblazers in Portland, but also to make the stadium more sustainable, environmentally and economically.
It's going to hit the 3 key pillars of PCEF. It's going to reduce emissions, it's going to reduce energy usage, and it's going to provide a benefit to a community in need.
How is it serving underserved communities to put $75 million from PCEF into these renovations?
The Moda Center is right in the middle of what we call our Albina district. It is a district that has been underserved for decades. We built a freeway right through this vibrant community and displaced whole communities. And what we're doing is we're partnering with the Albina district to rebuild that neighborhood, and the Moda is going to be the center point of that.
When you're talking about renovating a sports center, I don't think that's the Like, how can you tie that to climate action and community services? You're essentially saying anyone can take money from PSEF with no purpose.
Jessica Carmona is a senior program manager for the Bonneville Environmental Foundation, a nonprofit that manages more than 2,000 solar panels near Portland's airport. Funded from a $4 million PSEF grant, Carmona believes this is how the money should be spent.
There's unlimited need and opportunity for climate action projects in many different ways that benefit community.
The solar panels have been up and running since September and now provide about 150 low-income residents with so-called energy credits. Carmona says they'll help lower utility bills up to 40% over the next 2 decades.
You make it accessible for people who move around a lot because they don't have stable housing sometimes. So they can subscribe and they can take the subscription with them. They don't have to own their home.
Just across the street, PSEF funding also financed rooftop solar panels inside this community of roughly 60 formerly homeless people who live nearby.
Our frontline communities, those that face the greatest and worst impacts of climate change, should be at the center of creating those solutions. This is a competitive grant-making program.
Sam Barrasso is the program manager for the Portland Clean Energy Fund. He says the projects that PSEF is funding will be transformative for the city.
I mean, we've retrofit hundreds of homes that now see bill savings of $1,000 plus per year. We've planted countless trees across the community, invested in getting folks onto e-bikes and so forth. And we've distributed almost well over 20,000 portable heat pump cooling units.
But Barrasso admits, like many cities, Portland is facing a challenging moment when it comes to local government revenues.
There's always been competing priorities and desires to spend the resources in other ways. So I think there are these trade-offs that are always there, and we try to balance those trade-offs in a way to get at ultimately, how do we make sure that this fund addresses our climate, creates real tangible benefits for the folks that are here?
Trade-offs now being weighed by Portland City Council, and ones that Monica Samayoa says carry enormous consequences for America's first-of-its-kind billion-dollar climate fund.
That money is allocated. So Mayor Wilson's proposal is going to be interesting if it moves forward, because the city is going to have to decide, do you remove money from the city bureaus that are needing this money, or from the community that also needs this money? So that's a tough decision that's going to have to be made.
Decisions that will become only more difficult in the years ahead. For the PBS News Hour, I'm Stephanie Tsai in Portland, Oregon.